is to find out you're stuck in a matrix. You're stuck in a cube. You're incubating. Well, there's this fun little story. I'm going to show you one more little picture here on the computer screen. This is from the black hole of the Bardo quest in Orion. Here is a picture of part of what would be called a hypercube. Okay? Now, a hypercube is literally the way out of 3 dimensions. It is the map out of flatland. It is the way out of the cube. It is the way out of the matrix. Now, our friend Vincent Bridges, who was studying this language, which became the movie Stargate, which is called Enochian Ophanim. And he was studying the grid structure of this language, and these are the letters. Now, these actual letters became the glyphs used to make the movie Stargate, which is how you squirt live people's DNA magnetics through black holes and into time. And these letters, I believe actually, if we look here, became, if we look over here, here is the origins of Greek based on the Ophanim Enochian alphabet. And here is the origins of the Cherokee bird tribe language based on the same alphabet. And we were just looking today at this rune structure called, what was it called?
Elder Futhark?
The Elder Futhark runes. And they all seem to have this thing in common about this ancient angel alphabet. Now, where this alphabet first came from is the story of John Dee. John Dee was a scholar who apparently knew most of the languages of the planet Earth of his day. He was the teacher of Francis Bacon, whom I believe was the son of Queen Elizabeth, who under the pen name Shakespeare wrote Hamlet to find out from the look on her face whether she was his mother. sirbacon.org, the scholarship. And so John Dee, who became the founder of the highest leverage form of magic on the planet today, the Enochian physics, the Order of the Golden Dawn, the Enochian calls this Ophanim language. And what happened was John Dee was given this egg by apparently an Ophanim angel who knocked on his window and said, "You want to talk the language of the angel? Look in here." And John Dee looked in this egg, which is still in the British Museum today. It's a green stone. It's a kundalingam. It's an egg. It didn't see very much. But it turned out when you looked in there clairvoyantly, you saw this alphabet, which scholars have been studying for like X number 100 years since, saying it's the most profound thing that hit Earth. And here we're seeing, when I showed this same alphabet to Dahani Wahu, the high initiate teacher of the sacred Cherokee, she says, "Oh, that's the star language of the Adawi, the star elders of the Cherokee, whose mission apparently was shamanically to squirt soul groups, DNA groups, through wormholes into stars." And now, Vincent does this lovely analysis of this alphabet. Let's look again at the picture. And he says the gematria of how the letters are laid out. And he uses the Greek alphabet to interpret the number values. And he says the layout of this alphabet is a hypercube. He says this alphabet is a map to how to squirt magnetism through a hypercube. This is Vincent Bridges' work. Now, another way of describing how you would add spin to a cube to make a hypercube is the model of 5 cubes in a dodecahedron, which, if you look at it in another shadowgram, you get this map of perfect implosion. The icosadodeca, which is literally what you see when you superpose DNA, Earth grid, and zodiac, that perfect nest. We have another partial picture over here in this Zoom tool model, where we show some of the stellations. We'll take a peek here. This is this little Zoom tool crystal. You see that each of the connecting points is the rhombi icasa, which is really the icosadodeca. And if you stellate these in every which way, you get this perfect nest of golden mean ratio of perfect 3-dimensional fractality, which is implosion, which is the geometry of DNA, Earth grid, and zodiac, was what was called Ezekiel's wheel, city of revelation, and may in fact be the only possible 3-dimensional fractal. And the symmetry might actually be the symmetry of gold's valence shells, and the true map to how to fuse anything. So it's like the symmetry operations in 3D necessary to squirt light into enclosing. If we ask any good shaman, and I've asked a few recently, they all tell you that when you come to a black hole, remember that Sham-an comes from Shem-an, which means Shem, to raise the highward fire stone, which is really what the Tower of Babel was, the origins of the true unifying language, which is simply the symmetry operations to climb the tower, or the Magdala, or the Jed, the raising the Jed, of symmetry. And so the Shem-an was the one who knew how to raise the highward firestone, which was literally to create a magnetic structure that could squirt genetic memory, the lucid dream, back up into the stars. Because otherwise, you're stuck inside this egg whose membrane is the speed of light. Let me give you this other lovely picture. This is a Templar manuscript we're going to look at now, and this is called the Kirkwall Scroll. Okay, I'm going to bring it up here. This is the Templar tradition. You'll recall was this discussion about the tantric bliss of Jesus and Magdalene, creating a family line, a bloodline, a grail, which became the royal families of Europe. But in the tantric bliss of Jesus and Magdalene, the magnetic emanation of their hearts created a link up of the blue fire ultraviolet tantric bliss cocoon, which carried their eye of perception on the wings of the inertia created through the speed of light of the tantric bliss eyeball through the pentagonal embedding of the heart of the sun into stars. In this auric cocoon, which literally was, here is the faster than speed of light column up the double helix of DNA, and it encounters the shock wave of the speed of light, which is called Ionic, Doric, and Corinthian columns. And when the DNA gets excited enough, and all the time travelers, whether it's Montauk, Demeter, or Incubicunabula, said sexual excitation was a key ingredient. Sexual excitation was a key ingredient for how you got the DNA excited enough to spit out enough ultraviolet to make this gorgeous, lovely little cocoon, which then you could use to go through the speed of light. And everybody knows that with good sex, you see stars. Well, the physics works. The fact is, Magdalene's tantric swoon, when Jesus was no longer available, was the fact that she needed to rejoin the body of her lover in the stars. So here she tells the builders of the Gothic cathedral, Bernard of Clairvaux, sit the Gothic cathedrals in a pentagonal star map of Virgo on the landscape, so she can use that fractal in her magnetic backyard, her bloodline, her Black Madonna children, as a lens to get their memories as a soul group back into the stars. This was called Et in Arcadia Ego, which became Joan of Arc, and the archons of the Anunnaki eventually became the American word Arkansas, which is where Bill Clinton comes from, which supposedly he's the illegitimate son of the Rockefellers, Winthrop, which supposedly lived on the fortune of the railroad cartel, which came from Daniel Pacer, which, if we believe the book Pandora's Box, was the wealth brought to Tryon, North Carolina, after Louis XVI died.